Hi, Sarah Spain here on behalf of ESPNW and Gatorade with the content series Women in Sports. And I'm joined by two powerhouse trainers, Monica Lorenzo, athletic trainer, founder of ROMO Fit and Pro Athletic Solutions, and Tiffany Morton, the assistant athletic trainer for the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's start with the one who might be having a slightly better year so far than the other two. Tiffany, yet another Super Bowl win for those Chiefs. When is it going to be the Bears' turn? Let's start way back how you got involved with sports. You grew up playing alongside three brothers. When did you figure out that you actually wanted to make a career out of sports?
Honestly, I don't think it was until a little bit later in life. I always knew I wanted to be in medicine, but specifically in sports medicine wasn't until I was already in college and pretty much in my senior year of college and decided to stop the role of doctor and switch it up and see what else was optional out there for me. And athletic training was one of those. So it kind of was perfect. It melded both things, sports and medicine for me.
Monica, you were a dancer. You had dreams of being on Broadway. At what point did you think to yourself that you could find passion and satisfaction in helping others, particularly artistic athletes, to make their way to Broadway or elsewhere?
Athletic training found me. As I was, like you said, I was on the trajectory to potentially be on Broadway, and I was training for that. However, looking for a university degree, I was so worried about having a career ending injury because I personally never saw the performer come back from an injury. And I figured if I do get injured, how would I then support myself with a fine arts degree? And my ballet teacher said, why don't you think about the world of physical therapy? And that didn't seem odd. As I started researching and interning at a PT clinic is where I met the first athletic trainer I've ever met in my life, who happened to be the assistant athletic trainer for the Radio City Rockettes. And she took me under her wing. And the second I walked into that athletic training room and saw the type of care they were giving their performers, I knew that was my calling. I hung up those shoes in a second and I was instantly drawn to this world.
I want to back up because I said artistic athletes, and I think some people might not know what that is, and also some of the misconceptions about their athleticism and the toll on their bodies. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. An artistic athlete is an athlete that is in a performative space, whether it's a dancer, an acrobat. So it's someone that is using their bodies for their art. Artistic athletes train extremely hard. It's a little bit different because it's not regulated, where when you're in a game setting or a traditional sport, the outcomes are regulated and achievable. Like, we want to hit that goal. We want to make sure that we're racing at this time and this speed, where your artistic athlete is more about the production of the movement. My challenge is always treating the artistic athlete as a traditional athlete and providing them the proper care that they would need for prevention, strength and conditioning, dealing with their sport, and then recovery.
Yeah, I think when people think about athletic training, obviously the first thing that comes to mind is the medical background, the physiology, the understanding of bodies and how they work and how those injuries can be healed. But there are a lot of other skills that are really important for you in your job, and I wonder if you could share some of those.
Yeah, absolutely. I having gone through a lot of school, a lot of people do think that's the number one thing, and it is. That's why we go through a lot of schooling. But really, if you're not a people person, if you can't have a conversation and be empathetic to the person in front of you, they're in the most vulnerable position of their life right now. And especially as an elite athlete, this is their livelihood,
Mm.
and their dream. And you've literally got their future in your hands sometimes. And so you've got to be able to assert some trust in that you are genuinely invested in that person first.
Yeah, that's huge, that relationship with your athletes. What's the best part of your job?
It's going to go back to those interactions because the best part is seeing a guy return to play or doing something that they didn't think they could do, and you've assisted them to that point. And sometimes it's the smaller goals. It's taking the guy who's torn his ACL and he's like, when do I walk again? When do I run again? When do I get to do my
Mm.
position? Like, when do I get to do the fun parts that make me me for right now in football? And every single goal that we hit, every single trust that is built to again get to the end result, that's the magic right there in athletic training. It's really creating those relationships and asserting to this guy, we've got you, you're gonna be fine one way or another, we're gonna get through this. And that's half the job of the athletic trainer.
Yeah. What about you, Monica? What are some of the challenges you faced?
Really getting the buy-in from management and understanding that there's a strong need for athletic training for an artistic athlete. It's been a difficult it's been a difficult road. And it also was a difficult road 10 years ago for artistic athletes to even consider themselves athletes. A long time ago, I did a session with youth athletes, and it was a room of 200 athletes. And I asked them to raise their hands. Who considers themselves an athlete? They were a bunch of dancers, and not one, maybe two hands were raised. And 10 years later, after doing these injury prevention talks, and now dance has become a little bit more in the forefront thanks to television and these shows, these competitive shows that are now being shown to the world. Now all 200 hands will pop up and they consider themselves athletes. So I'm so proud of the dance world for moving forward and really valuing themselves as the power that they are.
What's other good advice that you would have for girls or women that are looking to work in some sort of sports industry, yours or otherwise?
Don't back down. If you ever feel that there's not a space for you, you're just lying to yourself. There is a space for each and every one of you. If you have a desire to be in any space, that desire coming from within is the truth. So follow that. Even though there may be barriers, even though there may be moments of disconnect or doubt, if you still want that in your heart when you ask yourself that question, please keep moving forward. Think outside the box, reach out to others and network. I have the career that I have because of the connections that I made, and I fearlessly networked myself through all of those moments of imposter syndrome and not thinking that I was qualified or didn't have enough education or experience. And those are just little stories that we tell ourselves. Keep pushing forward.
That's fantastic advice. Tiffany, how about you?
I would co-sign on that, and add 2 more points. I think sometimes as women trying to work in a more male-dominated space, we lose our vulnerability, and I think that is tough because I think being vulnerable means that you feel like you always have to work with this chip on your shoulder type deal. When instead, what you should do is actively seek out these guys who are knowledgeable, who do have experience, and learn what they have, learn what they've got, and add it to your tool belt. And then secondly, I have an amazing support system. Absolutely. And so if you surround yourself by people who are also digging in deep and telling you you can do it or I believe in you, then gosh, I mean, what can't you do at that point?
I love that. I think back in the day, it used to always be how to be one of the guys and how to lean into traditionally masculine characteristics. And instead, what we're embracing now is the power of different perspectives and lived experiences in each and every space. And whatever you're bringing to the table is valuable and worth highlighting. And you guys have both proven that over and over. So thank you so much for joining us for this ESPNW and Gatorade Conversation Series.
Pleasure.
Thank you.